Welcome to Daily Living with Father Chapin, where we cruise through the Catholic liturgy of the Word, trying to dig out the deeper meanings of Scripture and how they might apply into our daily living. Yes, my friend, that is what we do. Sometimes the Bible can be a bit confusing, so we bust it down like a fraction. We're asking questions along the way. Questions like, hey, what do these Gospels have to do with me? How can I take these Gospels and apply them into my daily living so that I can become a reflection of God's love to a world that, well, doesn't know God for sure and is definitely in deep need of more love. I mean, take a look around, my friend. There's a lot of bad news out there. How can I take the good news of Jesus Christ and be a light in that darkness? How can I take these Gospels and be a tool in the hand of God, making present His kingdom, not someday, but today and every day, and that's what this show is all about. And I'm so glad that you could join us today as we consider this amazing gospel. It's pretty tough, though, here on the 27th Sunday in Ordinary Time. You know, 27, it's my lucky number. You ever want to have these numbers that just kind of keep on appearing in your life? For example, when I was a stockbroker, my broker number was 27. Or when I went to college, my first year, my freshman year, the dorm room was 27. Or I'll be watching TV and who made the play? Number 27. It's just one of those numbers. I don't know why. I look forward to getting on the other side and finding out what's up with 27 in my life. Somehow I'm connected with 27. You know, the other day I was hanging out in the rectory and talking to my secretary, and I said, you know what I need? I need a pair of shoes, okay, that don't have laces, that I can just put on and off, that I just wear in the house, you know, that I don't go outside with stuff, because my feet sometimes they get cold. And she said, well, you know, they have a name for that. It's called a slipper. And I went, well, of course, that's what I want. And I'm not really well versed on the computer at all, so I said, well, can you get me some? So she, you know, it's amazing. The internet is crazy cool, right? It'll be here in a day or two. And so in a day or two, these slippers show up. Now they're from LL Bean. And I'm telling you what, these slippers are amazing, okay? But I've just, first of all, I'm wearing them, so let me show you. Okay. I just got a question concerning this little, can you see that? This little lace. I'm thinking I might want to pull the lace part out. You know what I mean? And just wear the shoe. What do you think? Or do you like the lace? I'm not quite sure whether I do or not, but this fur in here, ooh, that's really good on your feet. Really, what does that have to do with our, I'm sorry. I'm just getting off the subject. What do you say we just quiet our minds for a moment, put ourselves in the presence of God? You know, we spend so much time running here, running there, doing this, doing that. How often do we just stop and say, hey, what am I doing? Where am I going? How are we going to know where we're going if we never stop and take the time to get there? I mean, to know what our plan is. We have to have a map, you know what I mean? We have to have some kind of a direction. And the good news about the good news is that God is trying to lead you through the quiet voice. And He does it many, many ways. He does it through His Word very powerfully. And since we can't really raise that quiet voice up to compete with the cacophony of screaming voices, okay, we've got to dial ourselves in. So what do you say we do that right now? What do you say we just take the time to quiet our minds, ask God to lead us? Because He's got a message for, what am I doing with this shoe? He's got a message for you, my friend. The question is, are you ready to hear the message? We spend so much time talking, how often do we just say, I want to listen. I want to hear you. God wants to talk to you today. The question is, are you ready to hear? We're going to school, my friend. The question is, are you ready to be the student? That's really the question. So what do you say? I quit yipping about this and we get right on into it. Now, the good deacon is going to bring me the book because I forgot to put the book up on the altar. Thank you. I appreciate that. Our gospel today is coming from the Gospel of Mark. The Pharisees approached Jesus and asked, "Is it lawful for a husband to divorce his wife?" They were testing him. He said to them in reply, "What did Moses command you?" They replied, "Moses permitted a husband to write a bill of divorce and dismiss her." But Jesus told them, "Because of the hardness of your hearts, he wrote you this commandment. But from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh." So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, no human being must separate. In the house, the disciples again questioned Jesus about this. He said to them, "Whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery against her. And if she divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery." The gospel of the Lord. And it's a tough one. This is Daily Living. I'm Father Chapin. You hang out. We'll be right back. And we're going to talk about this gospel and maybe a few other things along the way here as we consider this very, very strong gospel that comes to us here on the 27th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Hi, this is Father Chapin, host of Daily Living with Father Chapin. You know, I get emails from time to time from viewers, and my favorite was recently, "Dear Father Chapin, every time I have a religious broadcast on television, my husband leaves the room. But ever since he found Daily Living, he watches each and every week. Thank you for waking up his soul." Now, look, I'm not saying this to brag, okay? I'm saying this because I'm reaching that guy because of you. You see, TV is very expensive, and I need your support. I would like to put up on the next break some information, basically an address, as to how you can support the show, and I'd like you to prayerfully consider writing a check, supporting Daily Living, so that we can take the good news to a lost world. Now, what do you say we get back to the show? Welcome back to Daily Living. So let's be honest. Can we talk? Okay, I can't imagine that there would be a whole lot of priests or preachers that would get excited about talking about our gospel today. I mean, there's no way around this one. This is tough stuff. And I gotta say, one of the great things about the Catholic Church, and of course I'm a fan, is that when it comes to which gospel that you're going to read, which gospel you're going to preach on each and every week, okay, you don't have a choice. The church tells you what you're going to preach on. And that's a good thing, because I imagine if I did have a choice, I'm not going to pick this one, you know? I mean, there's particularly tough ones. Like, remember that it is not right to take the food from the children of Israel and throw them to the dogs, right? How about that? Like that. I think that I'd kind of stay away from this one because it's painful. This is a very difficult subject, full of heartache and pain. And I imagine like a stone that is thrown into a pond. The ripple effects of divorce have touched just about everybody in some way. It's a painful reality in our world, okay? And that's why this subject, divorce, is often relegated to the let's not talk about it list, okay? But I'm stuck. I'm stuck. It's in the God. What am I going to do? I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. So Let me start by reminding you that I'm a Catholic priest, okay? What that means is that I am not married and I've never been married, so that's not part of the contract. Consequently, I've never been divorced, okay? So my opinion in regards to this issue is not rooted in personal experience. But then again, here at Daily Living, it's really never been about my opinion anyway, right? We focus on one thing, which is what the Gospels say, right? More specifically, how they might fit into our daily living. The Pharisees approached Jesus and asked, is it lawful for a husband to divorce his wife? Boom, in your face. I mean, confronted right there, this issue, divorce, right? And he takes it head on. I mean, he does not avoid the question, doesn't dodge it. I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons I love the Lord, right? Whole lot. But one great reason is you got a question, oh, he's got an answer. It might not necessarily be the answer you want to hear, okay? But in each and every situation, if you have a question, he's got an answer. And I don't think you need to go to seminary or be a theologian to figure out that Jesus is not a big fan of divorce. But the deeper reasons as to why might surprise you. So let's talk about this. The Pharisees approached Jesus and asked, is it lawful for a husband to divorce his wife? So here they come again. We know that these Pharisees, the religious leadership, they're not fans of Jesus, okay? He threatens everything that they're about. And so they come with this question, you know, and there's all kinds of questions, I suppose. There's the questions that authentically seek an answer. There are the questions that seem to be more about trying to display the intellect of the questionnaire, okay, you know, those kinds. And then there's the questions that seem to be motivated by an agenda. I would have to say, this question is that last one. I mean, it's not an honest question. They're not looking for an answer. What they are looking for is to try to trap Jesus in front of the crowd. It's a theme that we see throughout the Gospels. All these questions, trying to trap, trying to back them into a corner. Remember that question about the taxes to Rome, okay? Or how about which law is the greatest out of 630, you know? Or how about why do your disciples pick the heads of grains on the Sabbath, right? And then, of course, that ridiculous question about the man or the woman with the 7 husbands, okay? I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And each and every time, as they are constantly trying to bring them down with questions, Jesus sends them off like scalded dogs, looking like the fools that they are, okay? You would think they would learn, but of course they don't. They don't learn. Not only do they not learn, the humiliations that come from these questions lead them to begin to plot to kill him. I mean, can you imagine that? I mean, it's one thing to irritate somebody, but it's quite another to inspire them to want to kill you, okay? But let's get back to this. Is it lawful for a husband to divorce his wife? Now, notice the language here. Not is it godly, not is it right, is it lawful? So they're approaching this question like a business deal, okay? Now, it might surprise you, at least it surprised me, that during this time, divorce was relatively common, particularly among the Jewish leadership, okay? The standard of the Old Testament had long been abandoned, and now this new rabbinical view had come into vogue. In other words, they began to depend less on the Torah or the Pentateuch and more on what rabbis said it meant, okay, the interpretation. And the prevailing view at this time came from a man named Rabbi Hillel, okay? Now, he'd been dead for about 20 years when this question had been asked, but Rabbi Hillel, well, let's just say he was liberal, okay? Even to today's standards, okay? Rabbi Hillel taught that, well, one could divorce his wife for burning the dinner. One could divorce his wife if she spun around and exposed her ankles. I mean, nice, huh? Or how about if she was infertile, even though oftentimes in infertility, it's more about the man than the woman in the first place, but why let the facts get in the way? Okay, of course, they probably didn't know that. Or how about this? If the wife insulted the mother of the husband, I like that one. these were all grounds for the divorce. But just in case you didn't fall into one of those categories, there was that catch-all circumstance. One could divorce his wife if he found somebody else that he liked better. Okay, so this is the environment that Jesus finds himself in when they ask this question. And of course, they're desperately trying to corner him. They want to get Jesus to condemn divorce so he will be perceived as a hardliner and alienate these people, right? At least that's their hope. But there's another reason. Dare I say a darker reason. You see, Jesus during this time is presently in a territory called Perea or Perea, I can't even pronounce it. It's a territory that is ruled by Herod Antipas. Now, not a real nice guy. His influence permeates the land. Okay, it just so happens that at this time, Herod had just recently divorced his wife and married his brother's wife. Her name was Herodias, you might remember her. John the Baptist had told Herod, look, man, you know, I know you're a pagan, okay? I know you're not practicing the Jewish faith, okay? But you cannot marry your brother's wife because that breaks the law of God. It makes her an adulterer. It makes her a harlot. And well, we all know how that worked out. He lost his head over it. This is Daily Living. I'm Father Chapin. You hang out. We'll be right back. And we will continue to talk about this amazing gospel that comes to us here as we celebrate the 27th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Hi, this is Father Chapin, host of Daily Living. What a pleasure it is to come into your home each and every week to spread the good news, but it's very expensive. Now, I got good news and bad news. The good news is we got plenty of money. The bad news is still in your pocket. So if you'd like to help the ministry, please send a check to Daily Living at 325 West Main Street, White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, 24986. And together we take the good news to a lost world. Welcome back to Daily Living. Now, just for the break, we have the Pharisees approaching Jesus. They got an agenda. They're trying to trap him. They got a question. Is it lawful for a husband to divorce his wife? Now watch how Jesus responds. He is employing a typical rabbinical tactic. He is answering this question with what? Another question. What did Moses command you? Now, you can just see the sarcasm dripping with that question. Because keep in mind who he's talking to. He's talking to the Pharisees. Oh, they don't know the scriptures, okay? They have every line, every word memorized of the Pentateuch, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, okay? So the idea, oh, they know. So you got to figure they're like, oh, well, that seems like a rather easy question. They're kind of backing up a little bit because they've been burned before. I imagine they're a bit wary. So what do they say? Well, Moses permitted a husband to write a divorce and dismiss her. Now, I want you to try to picture this in your mind's eye, because oftentimes, almost always, when you see Jesus depicted in a painting, he's always got this serene kind of peaceful, staring off into space, thoughtfully look, right? Isn't that true? I don't see that here. Okay, Jesus is clearly frustrated, first of all, with his own disciples, who just seem to have an inability to even comprehend who he is and what he's all about. Second of all, the crowds, right? Because they're all there, not particularly interested in the message, but they want the magic show. And now you got these clowns, the religious leadership, they're trying to, well, they're biting at his heels like chihuahuas, okay? So rather than that serene look, I see a cold, icy stare and a cold voice. Because of the hardness of your hearts, he wrote you this commandment. But from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and his mother and be joined, cling to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. And what God has joined together, no human being shall separate. Now, there's a whole lot here. Okay, so let's unpack it, okay, shall we? Let's begin by acknowledging the fact that this is Moses permitting the divorce and not the law, okay? Moses is permitting this. The law never prescribes divorce, okay? And there's a reason why Moses does this. He's protecting women. He knew that if he did not provide some kind of out for a disgruntled husband, there would be many shallow graves on the outskirts of Jerusalem. So when they put this in his face, Jesus puts it right back in theirs, as he points out that from the beginning, it was not so. In other words, this is not the way it's supposed to be. He puts his finger on the original intention of marriage. What is marriage all about? What's the original vision of marriage for God? Well, that's a big question. Now, if you go way back to the beginning, right there in the 27th verse, you will read, the first chapter of Genesis, God created mankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them male and female, okay? Now, it also says in the second chapter, this is why a man leaves his father and mother and clings to his wife, and the two of them become one body. Now, it comes down to that word cling, which means to grasp, to pursue, to attach oneself, to become one, okay? So the marriage covenant is just that. It's a covenant, all right? It's designed for many things, but one of the things it's designed for is to reflect the very image of God, which of course we are created in, which is precisely what marriage is supposed to be reflecting. What is the image of God, you ask? Well, of course, it's love, right? Now, at least in theory, the children from this marriage are the manifestation of that love, right? God is love. And I'm not talking about that Hollywood lovey-dovey kind of love. No, I'm talking about that God love, agape, that thinking of other people first, that self-sacrificing love, that turning off the me channel and what can I do for you kind of love, right? Now hold on to your seats because this is where it gets really good, okay? Upon this, everything builds. Okay, this love is why God took Adam, who was made in his image, put him in a deep sleep, took something out of him, right? And from him created Eve. He created Eve for the sake of love. Now, there was one, now there's two. Marriage brings it back to one, the original oneness of God's creation. You see, they're bound in love. They become the very image of God as they are the image of love. And the children are the manifestation of that love covenant. Well, at least they're supposed to be. Now, of course, that seems to be, breaking it down, okay, of what it is. But look at our world. It all seems to be breaking down. I mean, just 50 years ago, parents had lots of kids, right? These days, kids got lots of parents. I mean, isn't that true? So what do we learn from this? What do we learn? Like I said from the very beginning, okay, this is a very painful subject, divorce, okay? If you were to put the word divorce on top of a legal pad and then play a word association game from divorce, what would you find? You'd find words like pain, words like loss, words like hate, jealousy, greed, remorse, shame. Okay, now think about this. None of that represents God in any way, does it? And of course, the Pharisees, they know all about this. And they would know that in the Old Testament, the book of Malachi, which is the last book in the Old Testament, God says through his prophet, I hate divorce, right? It's in, well, I think it's the second chapter. Well, so you might be saying, well, if I get divorced, does that mean that God hates me? No, of course not. But let me tell you, that's exactly what Satan would have you believe. He wants you to believe that, because if you believe that, then you'll turn your back on God, which is, by the way, exactly what these Pharisees are trying to do with Jesus, with the crowds today, okay? Yeah, it's true, okay? God's not a fan of divorce. He don't like it. Why? Because he hates pain, all right? He hates loss. He hates jealousy. He hates hate. He hates greed. He hates remorse. He hates shame. He hates rejection. He hates cancer. He hates poverty. He hates starvation. I mean, all of that, which is a result of the fall. And divorce is just one of them, all right? And why does he hate them? Because he loves us. He loves us so much that he hates that which might destroy us. Only does love us. He loves us so much that he sent his only son to slay that which God hates the most, which is what? The wages of sin, which is what? Death. God is life. He hates death, which is why Jesus died on the cross, lay in the tomb for 3 days, stepped out on the third day, put his boot heel on the neck of death and said, "O death, where is thy sting?" Defeating everything that God hates. Just destroyed it. So what about you, my friend? Are you feeling just a bit convicted about right now? I mean, if that's the case, that's a good thing. It really is. It means that you're not spiritually dead yet. Hear me when I say, whether it's a habitual sin that you just can't stop practicing, that is keeping you from the sunlight of the Holy Spirit, or maybe it's some deep, dark secret from your past. You know, maybe it's a divorce. Maybe it's an abortion. Maybe it's infidelity. Hear me when I say there is nothing, no matter what it is, that is outside the mercy of God. Nothing. Locate it, claim it, and bring it to the cross and leave it there, because that's what the cross is for. Now, Satan's going to try to hang you up. Satan's going to try to harass you, make you feel like somehow you're not worth it. Okay? Somehow God doesn't love you. That's not true. That is a lie. Don't believe the great deceiver. Take whatever it is to the cross, leave it there, and then just walk away and seek what God really wants, which, by the way, is to fall in love with you. You know, every day in this country, somebody does something nice for somebody else. Today, why don't you let that somebody be you? This is Daily Living. I'm Father Chapin. Hope you can come back next week and we'll do it again. Until then, I hope you let God live in your life. And I bless you. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.